Hello, Nicole.
Hi. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Nicol F.C. and my partner here, Tsz Shan. I used to work at the University of Hong Kong. I recently just joined an NGO, and it's connected to a Buddhist monastery here locally in Hong Kong. And I'm in charge of their educational and research programs. So this is why I was very keen on the suggestion that Yuki was talking about, like, having more collaboration and connection between universities, institutions, and the NGOs. And certainly, Lord Trout was right. We need to bring these usually traditionally resourceful and intellectual communities together to make an impact first, and then see how we can spread that to the community and the bottom-up approach to that. So I'm just gonna quickly recap some of the highlights of today's talks and sharings. And I'd like to start with Cesar's phrase about feeling, touch, and think. And I think that pretty much sums up the fact that that's our humanness, right? I mean, this is humanity. And we are feeling, touching, and thinking beings. And that connects to the theme that, to me, it's very close to my heart, empathy, which is the first state of design thinking. And like I said before, it is actually very hard to achieve. So it is quite a tall order, to kind of, how do you begin with empathy? And like I said, I think there's a lot of efforts needs to be done to think about the pedagogy, the programs that can actually cultivate empathy in people. And then also, Louisa talked about a design thinking path. And I think that is such a good analogy, the path. And now that I work in the NGO of a Buddhist monastery, I just wanted to kind of use the Buddhist analogy that we do also have a very central teaching, basic Buddhist teaching that talks about the noble eightfold path. And the first two stages of that noble eightfold path is indeed the correct view and the correct intention. And I think that is something very central, I think, to any kind of path that we want to take, whether it's an SDG path, design thinking path, or spiritual path. And then our speakers talked about human communication. So Yuki talked about like how you communicate. You use that example of the plastic bottle. That lady, right? She reached out to you guys, talked about her problem. So again, this is human communication. And I was so touched by that story, because I feel like this is also something that is increasingly becoming challenging, even though we have so many communication technologies, that sometimes people don't realize all it takes is just for you to reach out to someone and talk, and to have that openness and willingness to talk about your problem, your issue with another person, to share your story with another person. So that is very important. And I think we haven't communicated enough with our young people. And that's why I echo with you too. We need to, yeah, like what King was saying, teachers need to become students. Students need to become teachers. We should totally switch role. And I think that would solve half of the problem at least. And then, I think for me, what I get from this is that we do also need to develop core values and guiding principles in order for us to tread on this SDG path and the design thinking path. What are the guiding principles? What are the core values that would actually support us to have the correct view and intention so that we can take action, right? So my little input for this is that I'm actually recently thinking about the framework of the ethics of care, which is advocated by Carol Gilligan. in the 70s, which is centering on interpersonal relationship rather than, because normally if you take philosophy 101, you learn about the logical thinkings in ethics and stuff like that, right? Utilitarianism. So Carol is actually advocating for a different approach to ethics, thinking about ethics and virtues. Those are like our core values, right? And it's the one that is more centered on human relationship. And the argument is such that because we are living in an interdependent world, and we have an interdependent relationship with all the other beings, and with the earth, and with the planet, and with the universe. And because of that interdependence, we should develop our virtue based on these interdependent relationships. And with that kind of relationship, you developed kindness and care and empathy with each other, because it's essential to our survival if you look at it that way, right? So so having said that, I think I'll just turn over to Joseph.
Yes, I'm here.
To talk about your understanding of this.
Okay, so the wrap up part. Thank you, everyone. And because the wrapping up of what by Nicol is doing so well, I almost just want to say thank you and then pass it over to Gray. But no, I'm not going to do that. And well, basically now first I need to apologize because I'm not with everyone. I am indeed in Shenzhen doing my quarantine. And you know what? I just found that doing the quarantine now, it is not that bad because I guess we have been practicing it quite a lot through months of work from home. So now I'm just doing another work from home, but I feel like now that work has changed so much because even when we talk about quarantine, it is not that scary anymore. And also what we are seeing is that we can actually get life keep on going because we are going through the transformations. And to actually sum up on what I have been seeing today, I've got 4 points. The first one, indeed, it is about library. And you know what, telling everyone's a secret while they are doing the event at the Ingenium is that actually Caesar and I, more than a year before at one of the module, we had actually brought a lot of boxes to Ingenium and then to do some sort of prototype in one of the leadership training program. And then indeed, we get all the students get their hands dirty. But of course, we have cleaned up all the rubbish afterwards. But what I want to tell is that actually, even when we look at the role of library, it is changing. And it is not just a place with book. And if I look at, or if I quote an examples of library designed by quite a famous architect, Toyo Ito in Japan, what he has done in Sentai is that he has done a library. But actually, if you all note the flange of library, it is bibliotic. But what he's saying is that, no, we are not a bibliotic anymore. We call ours, actually the team, they call the library called Mediatek. And what I'm seeing on the library nowadays, not just in the universities, and indeed in the different institute or primary school or secondary school, it is a place not just about media anymore. It is a place where it nurtures creativity and also it enhances or it encourages connectivities. And that's why maybe in the future, the library can actually be renamed as collaborative. Maybe that is the trend. So that is the first point that I want to bring out. The second point is about students. And I think today we're having the honors to have so many different guests, and then they have shared a lot of different cases, different examples. And one thing that I observe, especially from what Caesar has talked about, is about students. And in the past, we are thinking about, okay, we need to bridge the gap of primary students to secondary school students to universities. And then afterward, we are thinking about how to bridge it to the industries, to the market out there. But what we are seeing is that now we are packing everything together because there are a lot of good projects coming out from primary and secondary schools, and encourage a lot of the good ideas, innovation, even if it is coming out from the young generations. We just and get everything to make it happen. So I think that is the second point. The third point, because I can see that only got 5 minutes left, is that again today we have got the pleasure to have Carrie joining us, because I think she is actually a good speaker, is actually plugging in today's event. When we are talking about innovation, when we are talking about doing the SDG, it wouldn't be just by the school. So the school do their part, and then the other people do their part. Actually, the school can work together with the industries, because that is where a lot of things that really happens. And really, we are talking about market adoptions, really to get it to the users. And that is why we need to think about, even when we are talking about primary school or secondary school, we can actually connect with industries and then to see how we can collaborate. So the final point for me is that we are going through really a transformation of educations. And when we start thinking about how to tackle the COVID-19, people are thinking about, okay, we can have online classes. And what is the purpose of online classes? It is to actually to complement what, because the students couldn't get to the school. And now, if we are actually think about it again, is that actually we can use this as an opportunity to rethink about what is the next generation of educations. Maybe what we can do is that we can do the online and a new way of educations by, say, by the different technology, by Zoom, by other methods. And then when they get to the school, when they get to the library, it is more about to train up how they can interact with the others, how they can socialize with the others, how they can actually do different activities together. So this is something that actually I think it's worth thinking about. So I think Walter is also a good friend of me. And actually, when she talk about the society, even from the government point of view, the different departments, they are doing different things. And there's high level reporting. The question is, what is the role of us? What can we do? And actually, I would say what we are doing today is definitely would be our first kickstart of the first step. Because what needs to be done, it is indeed get connected. Get connected, it is one of the key things of design thinking. Collaboration. Without collaboration, we cannot actually move forward with creative ideas. And that is why I think today, when we go through the different speakers, we are actually going through a lot of design thinking. Actually, we are doing the design thinking because we are doing the diverge to get all the insights, all the information, and then actually we feel quite satisfied leaving the room. But actually we can actually think about what is the converge part. The converge part, it is really to plan about what is the problem statement, what is the next action that we can do together. And if we can actually do that, and as King mentioned about in the group discussion, is that then when we act, it is not just to think about next year. And what we are doing, it is part of the history that make SDG actually workable, and then we can have a much better future. So I think on that note, this is actually all from me to wrap up, because I know that we are overrunning in terms of time. So I guess, and Nicole, so I will hand it over to you first.
I just want to bring, again, one of the original instigators of this whole design thinking, which started 4 years ago. And yeah, so all of us owe our gratitude to these people. And one of them, of course, is Gray. So thank you.